Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what is going on? Welcome back to another episode of the J All Day NFL Show. Today, we're going to be going over your Pittsburgh Steelers final 7-round mock draft. Remember, guys, we have no second-round pick because of the DK Metcalf trade. So, where do we go in round one? Do we go D-line, cornerback, quarterback? You got to stick around and find out. Let's get into the video. All right, all my Pittsburgh Steelers fans, we just crossed 15,000 subscribers. Thank you so much for all your support on the channel. We're up 21 overall. Some interesting guys on the board here, including Walter Nolan. Could be very interesting play here. Trey Amos is on the board as well. And, of course, Shedeur Sanders is on the board here. 45th ranked overall prospect from PFF. You know, you could take those rankings with a grain of salt, but pretty effective over his time in Colorado. This past year, 37 tutties, 10 interceptions, 4,100 yards. He did have the privilege of throwing to Travis Hunter, so I mean, that's not a horrible choice to be thrown to. Derek Harmon's on the board as well. But when we take a look at the way this roster plays out, in my opinion, you know, the offensive line looks okay, but D-line, serious issues, right? Hayward is, 36 years old. His time is running out. Let's just say that. And then they have Dean Lowry penciled in at the other left end spot. Remember, these depth charts this early in the year are not official by any stretch of the imagination, but they could definitely use an upgrade and get a little younger at the D-line. And with Walter Nolan on the board, it's going to be hard for me to pass him up. We could get a quarterback in the third round, in my opinion, then go maybe running back in the fourth. Or maybe we go running back in the third, go quarterback fourth or fifth. But right now, Walter Nolan, 6'3", 305. I love this pick. For me, it's between Shedeur Sanders or Walter Nolan. Reports that I've read have suggested that maybe their last meeting with Shedeur Sanders didn't go quite well. So, all those reports you got to, take with a grain of salt this close to draft day because we're only 2 days away. But Walter Nolan being on the board in the 20s, I'm taking Walter Nolan at 21 overall for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay, guys, we're up in the third round. Not a ton of picks this year. We got a 3, 4, 5, 6, and a 7. Taking a look at how the board played out. I want to take a look at quarterback. Jalen Milroe is on the board. So is Will Howard. A lot of NFL pundits have been liking Jalen Milroe more and more because of his athleticism. And the ceiling could be very high for him if he brings it all together, right? Jalen Milroe is really interesting. And we could go running back too. Devin Neal, Jarquez Hunter, DJ Giddens. A lot of the great guys are kind of gone already. I'd rather wait for a guy like Tootin or Monangai later in this draft. I'm not reaching for any of these guys. So here, Steelers fans, I'm going quarterback. For me, it's between Jalen Milroe and Will Howard. Will Howard, more your traditional size for a quarterback, 6'4", 235. Impressive season, 4,000 yards, 35 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, fifth in adjusted completion percentage. That's pretty much the best stat that he has going for him right now. Intermediate grade, no pressure grade, deep grade, all pretty solid for Will Howard, right? Steelers could make some sense. Here are a lot of his pros. Not a lot of his cons are, super concerning. 35% of his passes on third and long or short of the sticks. That's a really bad habit, right? Inconsistency with his release point. Not a super confident guy either, Skittish in big moments. First Michigan, that is a note there as well. Jalen Milroe, 2,800 yards, 16 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. For me, Will Howard is more of that pocket passing quarterback, right? Could make some sense here. Definitely more of an RPO guy. But, if you take a look at when the Steelers were super successful, RPO wasn't really in their game. Ben Roethlisberger wasn't an RPO guy, I'm going Will Howard here in the third round, 83 overall. Next up, in the 4th round, 123 overall. Jalen Milroe is still on the board. That's 16 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. Is just a ratio that I was not interested in as a quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. In the 4th round, let's take a look at the running back position here. Jarquez Hunter is still on the board. I like him. 1,200 yards, 6.5 yards per carry. 8 touchdowns. Pretty impressive guy. 5'10", 209. Pretty decent size. A little on the shorter side, but I do like Jarquez Hunter for sure. Earned rushing grades above 80 in all 4 collegiate seasons. Consistently posted high missed tackles for us. I love that. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to like that as well. Yards after contact, top 40. Missed tackles forced, top 30, or about almost 60. Really, really impressive, man. I really like Jarquez Hunter. I think he could be the guy at the running back spot for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Jaden Blue is on the board as well. Decent player. I just think Hunter's got a little more juice, but Jaden Blue's good size. 6 foot, 200 pounds. Really, really good size. I love that size. Quick, agile footwork, got good hops, precise movement, game-changing long speed at the NFL level. Former track sprinter, smooth yet, natural hands as a receiver. He's a pretty, interesting guy. Jarquez Hunter, not quite as, versatile as a guy like Jaden Blue. Brashad Smith from SMU is on the board. Really big year, 1,300 yards, 14 touchdowns, right? Light on his feet, arguably the best route runner among running backs in this class. I think that goes to Cam Scatterby personally. But, I think Jaden Blue from Texas makes a lot of sense, right? A lot of sense. 6 foot, 200 pounds. He doesn't have a ton of reps, right? 135 attempts. In 135 attempts, he's forcing 37 missed tackles. That's pretty impressive as well. But, man, I do like Jarquez Hunter, though, man. I'm up in the air between these guys, He's a little bit small, 5'10", 209, but, man, there's a lot to like about him, man. Good pass protector. You know what? I like Jarquez Hunter, man. I think he's the best of the bunch. Okay, now we're up in the 5th round, 156 overall for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We got our quarterback. We got a running back. Safety now is definitely a position of need. I wouldn't mind adding another off-ball linebacker as well to this bunch. Patrick Queen, PFF gave him a 56.8 overall grade. Good at rushing the passer, but run defense and in coverage, he's a liability, right? So, we'll have to see. Right now, Cole Holcomb is the other off-ball linebacker. Definitely could use an upgrade at that spot, right? Definitely could use an upgrade. Jordan Hancock, the safety from Ohio State, is on the board as well. Adding a safety, pressing, but, not the biggest need in the world for them. So at cornerback, taking a look at who is available. I do like O'Donnell Fortune. He could be available for us at 185. Bahal Cohn from Western Michigan. He's been rising up draft boards as well. Smaller school guy. When you're drafting in the middle of the 5th round, you really want to bring in best player available. Man, Jordan Hancock is looking pretty good here. They do have a need at safety, which could be interesting. Deshaun Elliott, 28 years of age, and then we have Minka Fitzpatrick, former 1st-round pick, 29 years of age. That room's definitely getting a little bit older. But for me, I think linebacker is a really big area of concern for them. Jack Kaiser is looking pretty juicy here, guys. I'm going to do that. Jack Kaiser goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers at 156 overall. Now, at 185, I'm going to take a look at this cornerback situation. O'Donnell Fortune is still on the board here. I think he was great for South Carolina last year. 86 overall grade. Only gave up 1 touchdown, had 3 interceptions, and passer rating against was only at 61. I love that selection there. O'Donnell Fortune is a great freaking pick, man. So here's a rundown so far. We went Walter Nolan, quarterback, Will Howard, Jarquez Hunter, Jack Kaiser, the linebacker. They need some help at off-ball linebacker. Not a lot of depth behind Patrick Queen. If something goes down with him, they're going to be in trouble. And they need good linebacker play. O'Donnell Fortune, the cornerback. So now we're in round 7. This is kind of best player available. Runyon Lane has definitely been flying up draft boards. Mel Kiper was talking about him the other day. 84 overall grade. I love this selection here. I'm definitely thinking about pulling the trigger on him. Dean Clark from Fresno State is on the board. Jimmy Horn, the wide receiver. Jalen Smith, the cornerback. Jay Higgins on the board. You know, for me, Runyon Lane, extremely, extremely impressive. For a 7th round pick, really coming into his own. 5'11", 197. Box safety, could really, really come up. Maybe even play nickel a little bit for the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? If we go out to nickel, you know, they could use some nickel help as well. So I think this is a great pick. 2 real areas of need with safety and nickel cornerback. Runyon Lane goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 7th round. Remember, no 2nd round pick because of the DK Metcalf deal. You know, they need a quarterback. Given the Will Howard pick at D makes no sense to me at all whatsoever. You know, you could have went Jalen Milroe there, but they said to go Ozzie Trapillo, an offensive. So let's bring in an offensive lineman when we have Mason Rudolph as the starting quarterback. That makes no sense. We got a solid running back in the 4th round with Jarquez Hunter. They need linebacker depth. We got O'Donnell Fortune. This team is desperate for cornerbacks. Another grade that makes no sense. These PFF grades are pretty stupid in my opinion. Like, this team is desperate at the cornerback spot. You know, they have Darius Slay on a 1-year deal, but behind him, not a ton of depth, right? And then Runyon Lane, the safety, at pick 229, we got an A- grade for that. B overall grade, we got a great D lineman and Walter Nolan, Will Howard, Jarquez Hunter, Kaiser, Fortune, Runyon Lane. I think this is a great draft haul for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers fans, let me know in the comments below. Do you like this draft haul for the Steelers? Do you like Will Howard in the 3rd round? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace.